Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, dedicated to providing care for all and creating healthy communities in East Central Illinois, offering general and specialty medicine, including a regional cancer center, heart and lung center, orthopedics and sports medicine, a center for interventional pain, and a full complement of diagnostic and rehabilitative services. Sarah Bush Lincoln, trusted, compassionate care.
All aboard for this week's adventures on Heartland Highways.
We're off to Mattoon, Illinois, first to see the completed renovation of their train depot and museum.
Then we'll make our way to Vincennes, Indiana for a tour of the Hall of Hollywood Hoosiers, a museum featuring famous people from Indiana.
And finally, it's back to Tower Hill, Illinois for a performance at The Barn, a gospel music destination that was once a place for cattle auctions.
That's next, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to another edition of Heartland Highways. Have we got a great collection of stories for you this week?
We're actually coming to you from the location of our very first story. The Illinois Central Depot here in Mattoon has a long-seated history in Coles County, and thanks to its recent restoration, it's been restored to its former glory. In a society where cars and planes mostly rule transportation, it's sometimes easy to forget the third in their ever-famous trio. Although sometimes considered a mode of transportation of the past, trains are still going strong. Back in 2000, in the city of Mattoon, Illinois, the Amtrak company expressed interest in building a passenger kiosk in their rail yard. This kicked off a project that would restore one of the city's centerpieces to its former glory.
After the building was purchased, we worked to get it on the National Register. In order to get many grants and funding aid, it helps to have a building on the National Register. And it deserves to be, because as far as we can tell, the building is unique. It's 3 stories. It was designed by a railroad architect. His name was McLaughlin, and he was an Illinois Central Railroad employee, and built in 1917, but by the time we started, it was boarded up on several sides. The roof was leaking. It was full of plaster and chemicals and asbestos and all sorts of things. So the first thing we did was raise enough money to repair the roof. And that cost, I believe, around $170,000, maybe $175,000.
The next step was to raise the remainder of the nearly $3 million that would be needed to get the building back into passenger-ready shape.
In the end, there were 2 federal transportation grants. We were assisted by then Senator Obama and Senator Durbin and Representative Tim Johnson to get the funding that was needed. But those were grants that needed to be matched with 20% local money. So we needed to raise $400,000 locally, which we were able to do. And then the construction proceeded.
And nearly a decade and hours upon hours of hard work later, the depot has been transformed back into the place reminiscent of yesteryear in downtown Mattoon.
The floors, for example, are mostly original in the waiting room, but the architect was careful to match the old tile, and it had to come from one specific place. That was the last thing that was finished. Another detail that happened is that a blacksmith from Charleston made a newel post for the staircase that matches the other newel post or the others, I should say. And we were not able to find anything that even approximated that newel post. So that was a commission. The windows were taken out, restored in their original frames. The frames were refinished. Most of the old doors were refinished. and the ones that couldn't be refinished were matched.
And several additions were made throughout the remodel, including rental space for businesses and a museum that the Coles County Historical Society hopes will help connect the railroad with local history in a variety of ways.
My thought was not to just have a railroad museum per se, because a railroad museum, people like me who are rail fans, we would go there more than once, but most people would go there one time and then never come back again. And so the idea was to have the Society's museum, but with a basic railroad theme. How did the railroads affect education, the social interaction of the people, agriculture, industry, those type of things. And so, that's the way it started, being developed from that. The Historical Society over at our research center has just thousands of artifacts, and we want to be able to use them in this museum and how they related to the railroads in this building. And so it's going to be a local museum. Without the railroads, Coles County would be a very much different place.
The Historical Society plans to change displays out quarterly, hold various events with different themes, and eventually become an educational destination for area schools.
We've already looked at what the state requires as far as education for especially elementary schools, and we think the materials that we have, we can use those as a hands-on experience to reinforce what's being taught in the schools. And so we hope that in the spring and in the fall we'll have school children in here.
When we visited the depot and museum, the Historical Society was in the process of developing a docent program in order to open up the museum for locals and train passengers during regular dates and times. With so much history and current connection to the rails in Mattoon, the Society wants to make sure the importance of railroad in Coles County will always be emphasized.
Then there's also several grain elevators in Coles County that use the railroad. So it's a lot of corn traffic, a lot of grain traffic, and then a lot of traffic that passes through. And then of course with the depot here, we've got 6 Amtrak trains a day stop at the train station, and we're averaging almost 3,000, about 3,000 passengers a month are using the train station. So which is pretty good.
Thanks to the restoration and now the museum, those passengers can enjoy train travel with the same nostalgia and grandeur passengers long ago experienced too.
When we were trying to raise funds, we told people you get a threefer. You get an historic building that's been restored. You get a centerpiece for downtown or midtown Mattoon, and you get a passenger station. And the transportation link is an important part of what the city is or can be. We do have an airport, but we don't have commercial flights. We have an interstate highway system, but we also need a train link, and we do have that now.
Why are people fascinated by trains? And I think there's a romantic element to it. There's a romance to years ago coming to the trains and seeing people off or greeting people. Loved ones, family members, people coming back from a war or going off to war. There are a lot of memories here for a lot of people that grew up in this area. Now it's a clean, safe, restored building that functions as it was originally intended, and that's what we're proud of.
For this next story, we headed over the Illinois border to Vincennes, Indiana to meet Mark Kratzner. Mark has a unique collection of memorabilia featuring artifacts from Red Skelton, a famed Indiana entertainer. We got to tour his entire collection at his Hall of Hollywood Hoosiers.
What I have here is a collection of people from Indiana who went to Hollywood, the Hall of Hollywood Hoosiers. It covers the history of Hollywood with the Indiana connection, from the very beginning of motion pictures to today. From Indiana have been involved with Hollywood history, from the behind the scenes on acting, even in forming the rules and regulations and promotion of Hollywood. So they've been, and I try to have lobby cards, stills, posters, and some other three-dimensional objects, toys that represent the Hoosier and bring back memories of old films and TV shows, and just try to promote the people from Indiana and the history of Hollywood.
Mark Kratzner's love for Hollywood started at a young age, but it wasn't long before he began to make the Indiana connection.
And when I was a young kid watching monster films, I know people, you get in those trivia contests of Godzilla and Frankenstein's, and so I wanted to specialize in Hollywood, and there's experts in westerns and comedy, and so I wanted to focus on something unique. And when I found that Red Skelton, he was one of my favorite comedians. I like nonverbal comedy, Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy. But when I found Red Skelton was from Indiana, maybe I find out who else is from Indiana. And that's just really explored and opened up a whole bunch of history of Hollywood.
So Mark, a native of Indiana, developed a list of Hollywood Hoosiers he wanted to research.
The way I've got there, my list is I've gone to, when I've exhausted library books, I've gone to each county seats. And county seats sometimes have clipping files based on biographies and people, and if you're lucky, they're even categorized as entertainers. And that's so I found a lot of people that you would not find in library books, and just local librarians or people who collect clippings of people who were in the movies at the time.
Eventually, Mark moved to Vincennes and organized his collection into this museum in a renovated downtown building, his Hall of Hollywood Hoosiers.
Red Skelton died in '97, and the university here was going to get the collection from his the widow's estate, and they were going to make a museum. And so I thought this would be, here in Vincennes, a good place to have my museum. So I moved my stuff down here. I figured the connection with the Red Skelton, and this is a pretty good location, right between Terre Haute and Evansville. So I think that's why I moved down here. I thought I would get some pretty good traffic and still be in Indiana and not compete with the big cities like Indianapolis.
Mark's collection varies from on-screen stars to those behind the scenes, but one prominent figure featured is Red Skelton.
Well, Red Skelton was born here in Vincennes. He spent about 20 years here. When he was around 19, he left Vincennes and ended up in Kansas City and became a stage actor there. And then this was around 29 when the Big Depression came, and walkathons came around. But during times there were breaks, and Red Skelton performed during breaks, and that's toured him around the country. And when the walkathons died down, he somehow ended up in Canada and became a major star there. Red Skelton served best known for his Dunkin' Donuts routine. He dunked donuts in different ways and very silly ways. But he never forgot about Vincennes. When he went on this television show, he kept mentioning Vincennes all the time. On his radio show, kept talking about Vincennes. So he didn't forget about Vincennes.
Vincennes University has a performance center named for Red Skelton, and the city has dedicated a bench and a bridge in his honor. Indiana has several current connections to Hollywood too, like Ryan Murphy, a native of Indianapolis and creator of the hit television show Glee, as well as a variety of other stars.
During this time period, most people are behind the scenes, but just right now, Florence Henderson, she's from Dale, down south of Indiana, and she's going to be on Dancing with the Stars. So people are still popular. Ron Glass from Barney Miller, but the young kids probably know him with this Firefly series as Shepherd Book. He's from Evansville. So there's still connections.
And helping people make those connections is one of the things that Mark likes best about being in the museum business.
I think when people realize that's a Hoosier, makes a difference. When people come into my store and they see James Best from Dukes of Hazzard, the sheriff, and he was raised in court, and so they get a different smile in their head. So like, oh, he's from Indiana? Oh, I like him, and so then they probably will appreciate the show better. So even the young kids who don't even know these shows probably would appreciate. They're still being shown on TV or DVD or old movies, and that's what I kind of like to bring to the young kids, these old films, and then connect them to Indiana, and then they'll probably appreciate them more.
What do you get when you combine an out-of-the-way location and gospel music? Well, it's a place called The Barn, located just outside of Tower Hill, Illinois. Now, this place was the brainchild of two friends and their husbands. Today, The Barn is a place where gospel musicians from all over the country come to perform in a place that used to be a cattle auction barn.
I could see the need for people to have a way to assemble and get together and just have a pleasant evening. I love people, I love God, I love music. This just naturally went together. We, the four of us, but especially Judy and I, had been looking for a way to have gospel music and to bring people together in one location. And we struggled for years. And then I had an opportunity to be brought out and see this barn, which had 6 kitchen chairs sitting over in the middle of this area and was much smaller. And I just knew this is the place, this is what we've been looking for.
That was in 1999 when the cattle auction barn became a gospel music venue called The Barn.
For the first 4 years, we just more or less paid a small rental fee to the owner and had our programs here. And then he decided to sell the property. And at that time, the four of us prayed about it, talked to some of the people, and decided to form a non-for-profit and attempt to buy it. Obviously, we bought it. And since then, we've remodeled and just kept going with it, step by step, piece by piece.
And piece by piece meant renovating the auction space into a stage and auditorium that now seats 400.
We did not want this, even though it's all about God, we didn't want it to be a churchy situation. We wanted people to come in and sit down and relax, and that's why the theater seats and why it's set up like it is.
Those theater seats have come from a variety of places, but the largest group required a lot of TLC.
They had been stored outside. They had every kind of animal had been in them. They were molded. They were unbelievable what we had to do to make them usable for. There was hundreds of them. And they were at an auction house, and we kind of made a deal with them. We give him about 1/5 of what he wanted for them, and then we had to hire a semi to bring them all down here.
With renovations complete, interest in the barn took off, not only from patrons, but also from performers.
And yes, we had groups from the word go, and we just continue. We have probably a waiting list of people that want to come here, of 20 or 25 people that would like to come to the barn because they've heard about it. The groups come from all over. We have as many good local groups as we have contact with, but we have them from Indiana, we have them from Ohio, we have them from Kentucky and Tennessee, we have them from North Carolina, West Virginia, and Georgia. So we have them from all over because my goal is to have a mix of music in a year's time, to have totally different sounds to the group so it makes a pleasant overall experience for the people that come all the time.
When I think of my sweet Jesus and all He's done for me.
And one thing I hear over and over again when they leave here, it makes them feel good. An evening here, listening to that type of music and being with the morale situation of the people that are here, they just feel good about it. They're so glad they came. It's uplifting.
Patrons come from all over the region, some driving as much as 2 hours to get here. Concerts are held on the first Saturday of the month for most of the year. Preparing for concert night is a group effort between Joanne, Judy, and their husbands.
We do whatever we have to do, but she helps do the greeting, helps set up whatever they're going to feed or eat in there. She runs my sound. A lot of times her and her husband does most of the cleaning, for cleaning up the barn and getting it ready. I do all the booking. She's the secretary, I'm the treasurer. My husband is the president, and her husband is the vice president. They run the concession stand, hand out tickets, and then whatever else, unplug a stool or whatever goes wrong during the course of the evening. But it's a team effort, totally a team effort of the four of us.
On this December night, the gospel trio Forgiven from Indiana is the featured act.
So I'm gonna trust Him, ain't gonna worry, ain't gonna fret. God will pray, He's taking right care of me.
Patrons start arriving by 6 p.m. and the show starts at 7.
No, I love you so much, and I'm glad you're here tonight. The wonder of wonders as she looked on his face, that this little boy spoke the world's into place. The sun. We don't charge admission. We don't even pass a hat here. We never have in going on 13 years. We have 2 love offering boxes at the door. Everyone knows that money goes to the group, and what they put in there goes to the group, and that keeps them going. We've been really blessed. People are fairly good to give to the barn, and we have sponsorships now, which we can sell for most months, and that helps us, you know. And then at key times, we've just had people feel a burden and donate, and it's going. We're not rich, but we keep going, and everything's paid.
An evening of the barn not only includes music, but also fellowship before the concert and during intermission, where a huge spread of goodies awaits. The concerts are always wrapped up by 9 p.m. to allow those with the drive to get home at a reasonable hour.
It's exciting. It really is. We've met so many people in the groups and in the people that attend, and it really is exciting. And on the days that you're really tired and you think, we're not going to do this anymore, all we have to do is have one barn. We've changed our mind. You just go out of here lifted up, you know, it's ecstatic. And we hear from the people how it's blessed them, how it's made a change in their life, how it's made them feel closer to God, how it's made them feel more responsive about looking around them and being loving towards one another. That's just what the barn's all about.
Want more information on a story you've just seen? Well, then head to our website at weiu.net/hh. Check out our online episode gallery for past and present shows. Send us an email or find out how to contact the people and places we feature in the show. That's weiu.net/hh. Okay, I can't believe this show wraps up another season of Heartland Highways.
We're really glad that you could come along, and we want you to remember that every mile is an adventure.
And we hope to see you out on the highways. Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, dedicated to providing care for all and creating healthy communities in East Central Illinois, offering general and specialty medicine, including a regional cancer center, heart and lung center, orthopedics and sports medicine, a center for interventional pain, and a full complement of diagnostic and rehabilitative services. Sarah Bush Lincoln, trusted, compassionate care.
Welcome back to this week's edition of
Heartland Highways.
What show do we do?
All right. Okay. 3, 2, 1. For our next story, we headed over the Illinois border to Indiana.
This is Creeper.
Creeper.
Now this place was the I was going to say the dream child, the brainchild